Hi, I'm Donna Davis. I'm here with Richard Cole, the founder of Cole's Wild Bird Products, and he is here to answer all of your birding questions. So tell us a few of the topics we got to cover today, Richard.
We will be talking about birds migrating. It's peak migration season. Most of the birds are called Neotropical Migrants are getting out of here, heading south. We're going to talk about uh, leaving your feeders out for the hummingbirds, those special case, and intoxicated birds. The birds just can't drink. They're not good for that. Crusty eye disease, you hear a lot about that. And you see it on house finches. We're going to talk about that and explain it a little bit. And in reference to that, keeping your feeders clean so it doesn't help transmit that disease. And we're also going to talk about squirrels having big sores on them. We hear a lot about that. People say, oh, I've got a big, huge sore on my squirrel. What's that all about? We'll get into that.
Yeah, we've got a big show today to talk about. It's great weather, like what we talked about earlier, but tell us a little bit about what we should look for as far as birds migrating right now.
Well, the class of birds called Neotropical Migrant, they're up here in the breeding season. They come up here to have their young nest. Then they move back down to Central South America, southern, Mexico, Central America, northern South America. The whole group of those birds, the tanagers, the grosbeaks, all the warblers, most of the warblers, some of them stay here. And those birds you'll see moving through it 2 times of the year. If you're in the South, like grosbeaks generally don't nest in Georgia, except up in the mountains. And so I see them twice a year. I see them this time of year when they're leaving North America and Canada, moving down to Central and South America. And I see them when they come back in. So it's a fun time to be watching for birds because you'll see birds that normally don't stay in your territory or in your area. So keep your eyes open for it. The reason these birds move is most of those birds are predominantly insect eaters. Insects are still around here in the wintertime, but they're pretty scarce. So they've learned to just move south where the bugs are. They stay down there in our wintertime, come back here for the breeding season. So great time to be watching birds fall and spring.
And the hummers are still migrating as well, right?
Yes, they are. I was joking. I was just looking over this way just a moment ago. There's a bird feeder right there, and there was a hummingbird. It's maybe the second one I've seen all day today, as opposed to 5 or 10 out here. It really tapered off about 2 to 3 weeks ago. It's gotten slower and slower. A day or two ago, I saw no hummers during the day. So just stragglers now, the ones that are running down late, are coming through. And they're all headed to southern Mexico, Central America, northern South America. And most of the birds in North America will be out here, except the ones that are resident along the Gulf Coast and the West Coast. So you generally won't see one in wintertime. But we really advise you to keep your feeder out all winter, at least a feeder out all winter long, because there are birds that do not go south for the winter. They will be coming to the east and southeast, or maybe to the west. And we call them out of range birds. Georgia used to have one hummingbird, the ruby throat, as was thought in the entire eastern United States. But through research I got involved in a long time ago, probably 15, 18 years ago now, we found out that there's birds here in the wintertime. We found out what they are and why. Some of the birds, western species, say the rufous, that's normally a western bird, shows up in the southeast in the wintertime. And they live. They get along just fine down here because there's enough insects for them to find. Even with snow on the ground, they're good because they're cold hardy. So keep a feeder out in the wintertime. It doesn't keep your hummingbirds from moving. It simply provides a place to eat for the hummingbirds that are going to come here anyhow. So now Georgia is credited with having about 11 or 12 species of hummingbirds. One, the ruby throat in the summertime, 11 more we have found here during the winter. And we know they survive and come back because through trapping and banding, we can identify the bird. The next year it comes back, it's still got its little ID bracelet on it. We know it's the same bird. So it's been a great learning experience. So keep a feeder out. If you see a hummingbird in the wintertime after mid-November, contact one of your local bird stores or contact the local Audubon people and ask them who to report it to.
And I know you were instrumental in naming one of the hummingbirds that actually was found here in Georgia that people didn't know it was here, right?
I think I had a couple of those that I was the first one to find or see or identify in the state. And just because I started keeping my feeder out a long time ago in the wintertime, and lo and behold, they were there. Now more and more people keep their feeders out, and we're getting more and more reports. And when somebody reports it, somebody who's trained and with their federal and state permits will come out and they'll capture the bird, and very harmless capture, and they'll put an ID bracelet on it, release it, and next year if it comes back, you'll know if it's the same bird or not, or if it's found somewhere else, we'll know where that bird used to be. It's very
Yeah.
important research.
Exactly. Now, some research something that may not be talked about that much is how much birds can actually eat fermented berries and get drunk,
Oh,
right?
yeah, and it's like I said, they can't hold their liquor. But as you get into fall, these berries are sitting out there in these bushes and trees. They ferment. They've got sugars in them, so that'll turn to alcohol if it's sitting there, or if they start to rot. These birds come along and eat them, and there's enough alcohol in them to get the birds drunk. And you'll see cedar waxwings are notorious for this because they're strong berry eaters. They'll come in and they'll just start consuming these things, and 15 or 20 minutes later, you see them on the ground. They're unable to fly, some of them. So it's interesting. Some people mistakenly think that birds have been poisoned, but generally not. If they're around a yard and there's more than one, just give them some time. Don't try to round them up. They're probably, if they're moving around, they're probably just intoxicated. Let them, in a sense, sleep it off. And of course, if they don't move after about 10 hours or so, yeah, check out one, pick it up, or see if there's something wrong with it. But generally, they're not dead. They're just drunk.
And I think we have some pictures of cedar
Right.
waxwings that we can show. They're such beautiful birds, but yeah, they are the ones who love the berries. And yeah, I've seen some news videos of them drinking, but they're not the only ones that eat the berries, right? And get drunk.
That's right. Any birds that eat a lot of those berries and consume enough of them will have a tendency to get intoxicated, and it makes it hard for them to fly. They'll walk around on the ground, maybe not even straight, just like a drunk person, or they may even just lay over on their side for a while until they get over it.
Yeah, it doesn't make them great to be able to get out of the way of prey and all that. It is a funny
No.
sight. But yeah, we want to invite everybody to ask your birding questions. Richard is an expert. He's been watching birds for decades and actually came up with the brand of Coles out of his love for birds and coming up with the best possible food for them. So ask him all your birding questions. So do you want to talk a little bit about how important it is right now to keep those feeders clean to cut down on the spread of disease?
Yeah, disease is a problem with birds. There's a lot of diseases they can transmit, especially within close proximity to one another around a feeder. And one of the things that's been highlighted lately, we've heard a lot since about 1995, was the disease that really mostly affects house finches. House finches used to be extremely populous in the eastern United States. They actually came from Texas and South and northern Mexico. They were imported up into New York, I believe. Somebody was going to sell them as Hollywood finches because they came from out in California. And they had to turn them loose because the feds were coming after them because that's illegal. So from that one incident back in the early part of last century, now these birds took over. And there were so many of them, the most popular bird on your feeders back in 1994. By 1995, 96, probably 80% of the population had disappeared because of what we call commonly crusty eye disease. And I'll give you the real name of it. And it's a form of conjunctivitis. And I don't see that name. That's okay. Anyhow, it's conjunctivitis. And you'll see the eyes swell up. A lot of times the bird will either have the eyes closed. You'll see them on a feeder they can't see. And a lot of times that disease is fatal. It's also transmissible to the other birds. So if you see one of those birds who's been affected by the crusty eye, mostly house finches, some goldfinches, and that's generally limited to those two species, maybe some others in a minor sense. But go ahead and make sure you start cleaning that feeder whenever that bird's around, or try to get rid of that bird. Alcohol is a great thing, and other cleaners. Wipe your feeder down. Clean it anyhow, at least every 2 weeks. Some people throw them in a dishwasher. Some people just put them in a utility sink, wash them out really good, bottle brush to clean it out, hang it up to dry, put seed back in it, and you're good to go.
Okay, yeah. I just can't even look at those pictures anymore. It's just so sad. Don't you have some feeders there with you that you can demonstrate that people can get that are super easy to clean?
Yeah, it's great to say just clean your feeder out, but a while back it was more difficult because all the feeders were kind of put all together, and you couldn't get down into them, you couldn't clean them out. However, there's a feeder, nice tube feeder, Coles tube feeders,
Yep.
and they're great feeders, easy to fill. This is like a commercial right here. And the good thing about it, when it comes time to cleaning the feeder, you just pop the whole bottom off. You see straight through it. The bottle brush will go right down there nicely and we get all the junk that's on the inside out. And you just put it back together. Nothing to it. It makes cleaning very easy. So highly recommended, especially if you're tired of trying to take the other types of feeders apart to clean them. Get one of the Coles tube feeders. And while we're talking about tube feeders, we mentioned this a while back, but I just have to show this thing off. Tubezilla. It's coming soon. And it's big.
That is huge.
I've been using this in my backyard. It's like, I don't have to fill it up as often. The birds absolutely love this thing. It's a good looking feeder. So
It is.
keep listening. Tubezilla is coming from Coles soon.
And that's another one where you just pop the bottom off, right?
Same thing. Yeah, the bottom just pops right off of it for easy cleaning. And that's nice. That is so nice with these feeders. I've changed my habit over the years as we came out with these feeders. Like, this is what I'm going to use because they're mine, but it's just so much easier. Same with our Hummingbird feeder. These bowls, the Hummer High Rise
Right.
we talk about, the top comes off. It's just a bowl. It cleans out so easy and it goes back on and it doesn't drip. Got to have one. And we're talking about the migrants. All these birds that mostly eat insects moving south. Well, the hummingbirds do that also, but like I said, some of them stay here and can get by just fine during the wintertime. So what you want to do is keep a feeder out. And I highly recommend the Coles Hummer High Rise because it's got a bowl. It doesn't have a suspended tube with a narrow neck. So if it gets really cold and the nectar freezes, which it will after about 25 degrees, it'll start getting hard, it won't break the feeder. The feeder's just fine. And it's just a good feeder to leave out during the wintertime.
And I love that. I just pop off that top and stick it in the dishwasher. So
Yes.
easy. Yeah.
Yes.
How do you
I
clean
have,
your feeders? What do you use, Richard?
Pardon?
How do you clean your feeders? What do you use to clean them?
If it's a tube feeder,
Yeah.
and I'll take it down to my utility sink when it's almost empty. I just dump the excess feed in a bucket and I throw them in the utility sink with a little bleach for 15 minutes. Most of the time, bleach solution, 1 part bleach, 10 parts of water. So just a little bleach and a lot of water. You can also just use soap and water and a bottle brush. Works fine. Depending on just how soiled your feeder is. If you get mold and mildew, sometimes it's good. Just give it a light bleach. 15 minutes is good. Brush it out, hit it with a bottle brush and some soap, hang it back up. Hummingbird feeders, the same thing. Generally, you can clean those with just soap and water really nicely. And every now and then, clean the ports out with a little miniature bottle brush, or you can give them a little bleach every now and then. About 2 or 3 times during the season, I'll just sit them in a sink with a little bit of bleach for a while just to make sure they're as clean as they can be.
Those are all great suggestions. So, Richard, tell us a little bit about the disease that squirrels are getting now.
Squirrels have been getting these for a long time. People will call in, somebody shot my squirrel, or there's something wrong with it. It's got a big boil on the side, a big bump, or it's a big festering wound. And they are gross looking. They really are.
Oh, gosh.
It's actually caused by a parasite. It's a larvae of the botfly family. And this fly, it almost looks like a small wasp, will come and lay its egg right under the skin of the squirrel. And the larvae will hatch and start growing. And the boil or the sore will get bigger and bigger and bigger. But there's always a little hole right in the middle. And that's where the thing breathes and it can stick its head out as it gets bigger. But they'll get the size of your thumb. These wolves. Sometimes I've seen them this big around, big, huge sores. And there's a grub that'll come out of it about this large. Pretty good sized grub. And it'll then go do its little thing, hang out, and then become a botfly, just like the butterfly sequence.
Does it kill the squirrel?
No, most of the time, no. You'll see this on the side quarters behind the head where the squirrel can't get to it, and right above the rump on the back. And they generally don't kill the squirrels. It can if there's an infection sets in It's really bad. It's possible to kill the squirrels, but most of the squirrels survive. They say with no harm, really. You'll see a bald spot for a while on the squirrel. But it's just an interesting phenomenon. Not much you can do about it.
It's not like the squirrel would come to you and let you take it to the vet or anything.
Right, right. If you were to catch one, if one becomes fairly sick or fairly weak from one or two or more of those, you can get it. It is possible to extract those things. You can get tweezers, you can get them out, or take it to a vet. They can do it. But typically, most of the time, the squirrel will be fine after the bot fly's gone.
I'm going to dream about that tonight, Richard. So tell me this, what's your favorite thing about this time of year when it comes to the birds?
Oh, gee, it's the change, I think. It's almost like seasons. You get so used to what you have in the summertime. Oh, yeah, I've got the hummingbirds. That's great. I've got this. I've got that. The goldfinches are bright yellow and all of that. And then you got the baby birds and you see the family group. But then if you had that all the time, I don't know if it would be as exciting. Now we come into a change, just like now all of a sudden my leaves are about to fall off all the trees. But that gives me a whole different view. Something you see. Now I'll see different birds. Also, some of the ones that are semi-migrants may move down a little bit from the northern range down to here a little bit. And I'll get to see some other birds I normally wouldn't see or pay more attention to the ones that will be coming around the feeder. The leaves are off the trees. Will be soon, and that really helps you see some of these birds. Good time to go bird watching right now, and I just enjoy the birds in the winter and the change of scenery in general.
Well, I wanted to let you know, too, Anita Bruner Desmond says, we always use coals. That's a nice thing to hear, isn't it? Isn't it?
And thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And we always want to get feedback from our customers. Tell us what you think. Ask your questions all the time. We only have like maybe 1 more minute left. Any final thoughts for today, Richard?
I don't know. I think we covered most everything on the note.
Yeah.
And we covered all the medical problems different animals can have. But I just always tell everybody, get outside a little bit, especially some of these days are clear and cool or whatever, and just grab your binoculars, take 10 minutes, put the cell phone down, and just go take a few minutes away from that stuff and watch. Just sit and watch the birds coming around your feeders, look at them with binoculars, enjoy. You're putting the food out to attract good birds. You're going to have some nice birds coming to your feeder. Enjoy them. These guys are beautiful, and they're very interesting in their movements and their behaviors. So just sit back, take a deep breath, enjoy the cool air, and watch some birds for a while.
Absolutely. And it's beautiful, beautiful time of year to be able to do that. Yeah. Thank you so much, Richard. Have a great rest of your day. We want to invite all of you every Wednesday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to join, not every Wednesday, every first Wednesday of the month that Richard is here to answer your questions. Have a great day.
Thank you, Donna. Bye, everybody. Hello, this is Richard Cole. I want to thank each of you for watching, and I want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to share it.